You are at Schoology 101. This is a truly new to Schoology or would like a review of Schoology that starts from the very beginning. So if you're, I think we imagine a lot of folks that would be taking this course are new to the district, are new to the profession. Maybe you have experience with another learning management system like Canvas or even Google Classroom or Teams. Assignments tab would be other examples of analogous systems. But yeah, this is the 101. If you've worked with Schoology a bit and feel like, oh wait a second, I want the more advanced class, that's tomorrow at 12:30. So no hard feelings if you're in the wrong place, but yeah, just know this is the either starting from scratch or want a review from a baseline for Schoology. There's 5 of us as far as participants, 7 people total. So if you want to raise your hand and interject questions, it's fine. We've got two instructors here. So if you have something that's complex or really, really specific to your own practice, by all means, put it in the chat, and the one of us who isn't teaching can take some time to consider it and reply. But if you have something that's really topical, by all means, just use the raise hand feature. Or even unmute yourself, and you're welcome to interrupt. I don't think, given the numbers, I think we'll be ahead of schedule, and I don't think we'll get underwater with questions with the numbers being what they are. Instructors today, I'm Pete Connors. I'm the Instructional Technology Coordinator for the East Region, which covers most of the schools that either all or in part feed into Woodinville High School. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm Josh Emond. I'm Instructional Tech Coordinator for the North Region, which is like North Creek and all those sorts of schools.
We do have 2 other folks on our team. Gavin Molitor is the Instructional Technology Coordinator for the South Region. So you're in the schools that mostly feed into Inglemoor High School, your coordinator is Gavin. And then for the West Region, which is most of the Central and South Bothell, is stuff going into Bothell High School. That's Maddie Oakley, is the Instructional Technology Coordinator for the West Region. Okay, so just kind of this first section here, and the part that I'll be teaching, has to do with kind of defining what Schoology is, how it integrates into our ecosystem, and then giving you some getting you logged in and doing a little bit of navigational orientation within the system. Then I'll hand off to Josh, who will take you through managing a course and kind of get into the nuances of some of the different buttons and interfaces and integrations that you have when you are the instructor of a course in Schoology. So we really have, I think, especially for most grades, I have this written up as 2 systems, but maybe you could say there's really 3. We have Clever, which is like a portal. So we have wayfinding and rostering utility. This is accessed through my.nsd.org. You've probably been using it throughout this week to get to different digital web services. You can even get to your email through it. It's like super bookmarks. These are the tiles that you see when you go to Clever often have a secondary login credentials integrated with them. So say you go to my.nsd.org and you click on TCI to go and look at the elementary math curriculum. Your credentials for that system are different than your regular, what you use to log into Clever with, but Clever knows who you are and is pushing data to TCI. So it can act as like a digital key to let you into TCI with it, so that you don't have to have a bunch of passwords saved in your browser or written on Post-it notes. So that's where Clever figures in. Families also have access to Clever via family.nsd.org. Schoology, though, is our learning management system. So you'll hear us use the initialization LMS, and it's an ecosystem that provides structures for teaching and learning, professional development, and parent-student connections. So it is, if you've taken online courses, you've probably come across either Canvas, Schoology. I know when I was taking some UW courses, I know they have their own, I think, homegrown system that Start Learning or something like that. So there's all kinds of systems where you are logging in, your instructor has a login. There's calendars, there's grading, there's document management, all linked together. Rostering of those courses is usually automatic and would come from a student information system. And so to that point of student information systems, the third system that I would, say most of us or all of us really interact with is Synergy, or sometimes called TeacherView. If you're in elementary, that's where you go to take attendance, and increasingly, there's, but then for secondary, it's where you take attendance and where you do your grades. So that system is our student information system. It actually holds the student data in its cloud and feeds out to things like Schoology and Clever to provide rostering information to those systems. Schoology then can pass grit scores to Synergy, so and assignment level data. So those two things are working together, but I think you'd still say that at least as far as students and their courses, Synergy kind of sits on top of those two and feeds data down to them, even though there is a little bit of a comeback with regard to scores and assignments from Schoology into Synergy. There is another tool that elementary has access to called Seesaw. It's kind of like it is a learning management system, but it loops in parents a lot more. They're more of a third leg of the tripod there. In Seesaw, they're much more actively engaged in Seesaw. It's a little more like portfolio based, whereas Schoology is definitely more of that like online college type experience you're probably more used to. Parents do have access to Schoology, but it's much more of a little bit more much more passive on their side, in the same way that Synergy is. You go there and you see your students' grades. In Schoology, you can actually see their assignments and the work that they've done and the feedback that they've gotten. But it's not like a "what did we do in class today" kind of thing where like Seesaw is. Schoology syncs to a few different tools and platforms that we use. I mentioned Synergy already, but the other big one worth mentioning is our Google ecosystem. So in Schoology, well, you can post content and like have it live in Schoology's cloud. I think most of us probably would usually host our documents and create Office products like word process, like create documents and spreadsheets and those types of things in something like Google Drive or O365 that integrates as well. And then just connect those into Schoology. So you post an assignment, give it a due date, it shows up on a calendar, but then where the student actually goes and clicks on the document with the writing prompt to which you want them to respond, they're actually landing in a Google document, say, and doing it from there rather than you like pasting into a text box on Schoology. So that's another platform that integrates. Parents have accounts, and based on who is listed as their student in Synergy, they automatically are connected to that student's account in Schoology. So when parents log into Schoology, they can see kind of like rolled up information about any of the students to whom they are connected in Synergy and therefore in Schoology. So they do have that link. And then administrators and counselors, they have school level access that allows them to see the courses and the work and the grade or the scores of all students in their school in Schoology. So, that allows them to work with students to make, to help them make the decisions they need to in those roles. And that's, we have like a half an hour course that focuses on administrator and counselor roles in Schoology. So if you are in either of those roles, that's one that can be shared out when we do the email blast that has all the links to the recordings from this week. I think I've already kind of hit that first bullet, but all courses and sections are created via the Synergy sync. I would maybe like give a little bit of an underline on 2 words in that sentence. In Schoology and really in Synergy too, there are courses and there are sections, and just think of it as courses are, you teach AP US history, but then the sections are the actual, the actual preps, the different, or the actual different, teachings of it, your period 1, your period 2, your period 3. In Synergy, I think it's a little less obvious that those 2 things are different. In Schoology, it's pretty obvious that your sections are really where you are making changes, where you're posting things, where you're sharing things, but you can share across courses in the multiple sections of that course. So it kind of makes for those sections to live together, but have separate grade books. And we'll show you that when we show you our examples, that there's like an umbrella course with sections within it. For a lot of us though, say you only teach one period of AP US history, the course and the section are going to present as the same thing. And certainly for elementary, you have one course, which is Mr. Connor's 4th grade, and one section of that course. So there's really no distinction between the 2. Grades are passed from Schoology to Synergy gradebook. So if you have assignments that you are scoring in Schoology, those scores will pass over to Synergy. And Synergy, you can put different weights on them, and you have your interpretation scale that can bring up the lowest, student's grade from, if it's below 50, it'll bump it up to a 50, those types of things. So I try to, when I teach these classes, use the terms of Schoology, you are scoring assignments, and then in Synergy, you're maybe presenting grades. And I think it's a little bit, to put it in those terms, sometimes makes it a little clearer for students that, like, you go to Synergy, and if you're wondering, like, what is going to be on your transcript, what is your final grade, that's in Synergy. Schoology is your scores on your assignments, but there might be some weighting or some tweaks that are a little bit slightly different, or interpretations into GPAs that happen within Synergy that could lead to, if you did out the math in Schoology and said, oh, I got a 92.8 here, but then in Synergy it's a 93. Well, Synergy is the one to go by. And you can usually dial those down so that they're almost exactly the same. But it's one reason why we recommend to folks to hide the, and by default, I think it's already checked, you're not showing a final calculated grade in Schoology, because then if they're ever different, it's just redundant, and can kind of lead to issues if you have like a slightly different one than in the other, and it's probably just related to some weighting or something that's slightly different. Teachers can create new courses in groups which are not synced to Synergy, but otherwise anything you have in Synergy gets synced over, so you won't have to create your own classes. When we log in today, you may or may not see courses in your Schoology. That's what's what impacts that is whether or not your school has released schedules. And if they have pushed that data out in Synergy, then it's going to show up in Schoology, it's going to show up in Apara, it's going to show up in Clever. If they haven't, then you will not have courses in Schoology. And as far as I know too, right now, this is a change from last year, is you aren't able to create new courses, like manually created ones, which are not synced, until your schedules are released. So your role in the system is a staff member until your schedules get pushed, then you convert into teachers. Teachers can create courses. So if you right out of the gate here today can't create a new course, it's probably just because your school hasn't pushed their schedules yet. In Schoology, there are courses and groups, and the courses are what you would expect in Synergy, or just like when you think of online learning. The big distinctions with a course is courses have grades, they have assignments, they have assessments, they have calendars, or I guess the other groups have calendars, but the main thing is like there's an assessment, a grade, assignments going on in courses. There's also groups, and groups are just places for people to connect and collaborate and share things among stakeholders. So sometimes people make groups for clubs. Sometimes though people make courses for clubs. If you want to have due dates because students need to turn in permission slips or need to submit some kind of documentation by a certain time, or that might be something you want as a course. I think mostly where you see groups are school level groups for staff, grade level groups, department level groups, people sharing resources among a set of people. PLCs will create groups, but just know, like when we move into navigation, we'll show you like there's a whole ecosystem for courses, there's a separate one for groups, and they are effectively the same from a navigational standpoint, but you can just do more in courses than you can in groups, and that just affects why you would use one or the other. But everything that's created for you from the Synergy push is going to be a course. As far as like what there is as with content in the system, there's going to be core curriculum. There's a few curriculums out there that that have content that has already been uploaded to Schoology. It's pretty few and far between. I know there's an ASL curriculum that has like actual lessons and assessments that are preloaded into Schoology from which those teachers can pull. There might be one math or language curriculum. I can look that up and see if which one it is. But for the most part, what we're doing is creating content within Schoology. People make folders, that are represent units, and they have assessments in there, and they have assignments in there, and documents that students are expected to read. And so it kind of mostly comes from the teacher created side. There is the opportunity to share resources among teachers, and so there's almost like a middle path there of using content that's been created both publicly and shared on Schoology, or created by people within your school, grade level, department, etc. Okay, so right before next thing we're going to do is get into Schoology and have a look around. But before we do, just wanted to let you know that you have support in the use of this tool. In your buildings, you have a individual whose title is the School Technology Specialist, or STS. They are your in-building representative of the tech department. Most of the focus of their work, yeah, there we got Jack here. Jack Oakley over at West Hill is one of the, what are we at, maybe 35 STSs at this point, one on each campus. Some of the special programs share an STS, but for the most part, anytime you have a separate building, you probably have a separate STS. And your STS is your first contact with the department for most things. If you've got a computer that's misbehaving, or a printer to which you can't print, you're often going to be, or a student who shows up without their Chromebook and needs to check out another one, your STS is often going to be the person to whom you first turn. You also, like as when Josh and I were introducing ourselves and our team, there are instructional technology coordinators for each of the regions, and both the STSs and the ITCs are really knowledgeable with Schoology and can help you with a lot of issues there. There is also a Schoology support center where the company themselves publishes lots of how-tos and step-by-step guides on how to perform different functional things in Schoology. And again, I would definitely repeat that part, that most of what Schoology is posting is how-tos of the features that they already have. If you're missing students or your account seems wrong, or your grades aren't lining up correctly, there's not a lot in the Schoology Support Center that's going to help with like those more in-house issues. And so I would definitely start with your STS or your ITC to try to figure those more NSD specific issues out. Okay, so now let's go have a look. So we are heading to Clever, which is at my.nsd.org. Once you go to my.nsd.org, you'll get presented with a login page. Like I said, it's Thursday. If you've been taking classes all along, you've probably been spending some time in Clever. So it probably might not even ask you to log in. If it just goes straight to the tiles, then great, you're up and running. And I think I have one more slide before I jump over. Yep. We've got right here at the top of North Shore Tools, it should be in the furthest left position, is Schoology. So when you click on that tile, the system is going to say, okay, you've got an account here in Clever and you have an account here in Schoology. So we know who you are, and it's going to let you right in. There's a Clever extension that, at this point, I believe they've all that integration is happening automatically, so you really don't need that one. Okay, I am going to go ahead and this is just to show you where you'll land when you go into Schoology. You'll land in a dashboard that shows your courses. But I'm going to go and move some menu bars out of the way and head into Schoology myself. I'm going to click on districts. If yours probably just goes straight to staff. Yeah, you might have been presented with this, which is, if you're like, I'm signed into Chrome with my district account, so it's seeing that and saying like, hey, do you want to link those two up? And yeah, I definitely do. And there you go. So now I'm in what we saw on that slide, which is a dashboard that's showing me my courses. And in your profile, you can choose whether you want to land here in your course dashboard or in your recent activity. I feel like almost everyone probably leaves it on course dashboard. And what this is showing you is courses that you are a member of. If you're seeing a badge with a, this like badge with a green star, that means you're an admin on that course. So probably the teacher. And in Schoology, I guess there really is like, there's, as far as the courses are concerned, there's members and there are admins. So if you see that symbol, then you are an admin on that course. Some of us are going to see for an elementary, we're going to see our course. If we're in secondary, we might see a number of our courses. I'm going to guess most of us don't see much here because your school probably hasn't pushed its schedules yet. It's possible they have. I know, I think a teacher at Bothell High School was telling me the other day that he was seeing his courses. So, if you might see some. I think the vast majority of us won't. So let's see here. Yeah, I want to go to your profile first. Yeah, so, well, actually, let's do a little bit across the top just to show you, some places, but we'll go across the top and then we'll kind of start on the right and then double back. But you can see across the top, if you click on that Schoology button, it's going to bring you back to your landing page, which is the one that we're looking at right here. If you click on courses, you kind of get this bump out that shows you, I think it shows you up to 12 of your courses in these thumbnail views. We'll drill into this later, but just know that if you had more than 12, they're not going to all show on this grid. But when you click on my courses, you'll see them all. And the same thing with groups. If you click on it, like I'm in more groups than these 12, but it just shows you the top 12. If I click on resources, that's document sharing, files sharing. If I click in there, I get into an area where I can do some of that, but I won't click into there just yet. Tools, I believe, is something unique to me. If you're an admin or a counselor, you might have tools as well, but within it will just be the advisor dashboard. And again, we have a separate, really short class that talks about how that works, that we can put out the recording of. You have like an Omni search here that allows you to look for content and courses throughout your ecosystem. You have a little apps center, which I don't think you'll ever need to go there. This is just telling us that there is this app running. This is what connects your two grading engines. Like it's what allows Schoology to send data back to Synergy in the form of grades. You access it at a course by course level to make some adjustments. You don't need to do anything to it right there. This is a global calendar. So if I click on this one, I would see anything on my course calendars aggregated up into this all calendar. I can also then go on here and click onto, particular classes, but I kind of think most people, especially as teachers, go into their course and look at the calendar from within the course window. I don't know how many people really go up and do it from here, but I know like Google Classroom had the same thing where, there's this big aggregator, which, some folks maybe use, I would guess most don't. This is a messaging center where you can use to message other users. You can message other staff here. Students can message you. You can message your students. There's probably other tools that you might use to message, like in Synergy. I know a lot of people use that to connect back to families directly, but you can use that messenger in order to do so. This is a notifications tab. It gives you these just like you'd imagine on a smartphone or something, stuff that happens in courses or in groups to which you are connected. Those actions create a notification that is viewable here. I don't know how much acting on these notifications really works into people's workflows. I kind of imagine more it's you post an assignment, after the due date of that assignment passes, you go to the assignment and you give feedback and give scores on the assignment. If Gina Park submitted an assignment to me ahead of time and I got this notification, would I go and just grade that singular one? Maybe, but I'm not sure. So again, the notifications are there, but I'm not sure if it's something that you'll really utilize all that much. On the far right, you can see your name with a little picture. You have your profile. When you click on it, you have your profile. The group, no, group's the wrong term. Maybe like the umbrella under which your account lives. So in my case, that's the district umbrella. Yours will probably list your school there. Then a settings button and a subscriptions button in the logout. We're going to go into profile and we'll get a chance to actually enter some data into Schoology and start to personalize it. So just to reiterate there, I went up to my name, I clicked on it and I hit profile, your profile. Within this window, I see my name, okay, so I said my umbrella, but I guess it's my school, which North Shore School District being the school to which my account is connected. Yours would probably have your actual school there. You can see that there is this mostly for me blank space that has some information that is either pulled by the system with regard to your email or provided by me. So here I've got, it's, bio and then a test, but, I can go into this. There's an edit button over on the right. And if I click that edit button, I get the opportunity to provide some content here. So 4th grade, I guess I'll do. Grade, teacher, fill some stuff out here. Say that. Birthday is invalid. Oh, well, don't know why. But that way, if I filled some of that stuff out, it would show up in this, in that bio one. Some folks might want to change their picture. If you hover over this squigglies and pictures, or in I don't know where to have to describe that. Maybe I need more art vocabulary. But if you hover over that and click edit picture, you could drop in, your picture of yourself, a mascot for your class, the mascot of your school. That image will show up next to your name, like when you post things in your class, or if you comment on a discussion board in a PLC group or something like that. So, there's maybe some value in having something more representative of yourself than the default thumbnail here. So if you do want to attach anything, you just do that via this attach file, and it'll bring up your Finder window, and you can grab something out of or off of your computer. On the right, you see some of the courses to which you're connected, as well as some of the groups. But I would say, I don't know if that's really the place I would go to get to those courses. I would go through these buttons up at the top. All right. So I'm just gonna check and see if we've. Yeah, I'm gonna go. So I'll just take you into the groups and courses area, and then I'll hand it off to Josh. So if I go up to courses here, I click on courses. Like I said, I'll see the top 12 in my list. I don't have 12, so I only see 7. But if I go here and I click then on my courses, I land in a list view. And here's an opportunity to see where the difference between courses and sections shows up. You can see, like, for this example course with linked sections, Gavin, this actually has 2 sections. Period 1 is a section, period 2 is a section. The comma between them means that those sections have been linked. So if I clicked into this course, I could, when I serve out assignments, I would say, do you want us to go to period 1, to period 2, or both? If you see them listed, like if period 1 was on top and then period 2 was a separate entry below it, it just means that they're not linked, but they are the same course as Synergy understands them. When you look around here, if there is an archive of old courses, if you're new to the district, you wouldn't see anything in your archive. If you've taught with us, the previous year, you might have some things in your archive. Your archive can be a nice place to go, and going forward for sure. If you had a course that you put a lot of work into and wanted to pull it forward, you could copy that section up into your resources and kind of pick stuff out of it. But just know that your current ones, these are the ones that are actually syncing with Synergy. So if a student gets added to your course, they're going to show up in these live ones. So I wouldn't try to restore an archive or make a new course. Use the ones that you have or will soon have if your schedule hasn't been pushed yet. To that end, you can see over here on the right, there on my screen at least, and again, if you don't have if your schedule hasn't been pushed yet, you might not have this button. You'll have join, but you might not have create. You'll have create once your schedules get pushed. When you can click create, you can manually create a course that won't be synced to Synergy. So again, maybe a club, you might do that. If you're a specialist and have like a certain teaching of students that, you know, is in a more ad hoc kind of roster, you might create a course for that. But for the most part, you know,
I'm going to jump in here
yeah,
because
please.
we actually created a course for
Yeah,
participants to join to take a look at stuff from the student side. And I'm going to put that join code. I just sent it out in the chat.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I'll use this for the joining here. You all should have a blue button that says join a course, even if you don't have create. And this is how people get entered in courses without syncing. So if your roster isn't being synced in because it's a manually created course, good way to get people into it is via a join code. So if I copy this code that Josh put in the chat, and I would encourage you all to do this, and I go to the join a course, I paste that code in, and I hit join, then I will, and it's probably going to tell me I'm already a member of it. Yeah, you cannot enroll in a course you're already in. That will then land me in this course. Oh, not that one. This one. In a Schoology 101 section 1. So at that point, you are then a member of a course, and you have, you can see you have all this content around you here. So just before I hand off to Josh right here, I just want to show you in groups, you have the same thing. You go to my groups, all your groups are listed. If you want this like grid to change, if you looked at this and said, well, yeah, I've got these 12, but I actually have 15, and the 15th one is really important to me and I want to see it up higher. You can reorder these. Oh, it even tells you groups that appear below this line will not appear in the groups dropdown. So I must be a member of 13 groups. 12 are showing in the dropdown. If I wanted the Promethean panels to show above the fold, I just bring that up, and one of mine then has to live below. I don't think that'll ever be an issue if you're in elementary with regard to your courses. It could happen in secondary if you have a lot of different sections, especially within the same course. Yeah, cool. So yeah, Josh, I think I'm ready to hand off then at that point for within courses. We're going to double back to that one you just joined, the Schoology 101. Then you'll land right here.
All right. Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen. Once you join that class, you can kind of look at some stuff that was put in there beforehand and from our previous training this week, kind of see what it just looks like from the student side. What I'm going to show you is the teacher side and how you're going to add materials, assignments, resources, things like that to your specific courses. Let me go ahead and let me set up my screen sharing here real quick. Give me one moment. Okay. All right. Can you see that? Pete, can you see my screen now?
Looks good.
Sweet. All right. So once you enter a course, this is sort of the basic layout you're going to see. The middle section there is where all your materials and assignments and things are going to be displayed. On the left hand side there, you got that column that's going to have a bunch of options, which we'll take a look at some of those today. To start off with, I'm going to start up here on the top left, where by default you get some sort of little default picture for your course. Just like kind of for your profile, you can change this. So it could be something specific towards your course. So if you're a science class, it could be like a picture of a beaker, it could be a picture of you. It could be, whatever you want it to be. To change that, you just simply click on the little picture icon thing here and go edit picture. And you can either choose from a list of ones they have, which are all kind of default and kind of cartoony, or you could upload a picture if you have one. You can hit that attach file and upload any picture that's currently on your computer. Once you choose your picture, so let's say let's change it to that one. If you upload it, you'll have to hit save, but it changes that icon. And this is useful, I think, to change from the default just because it's easier to quickly identify your classes, because that little picture shows up on that 12 drop-down menu when you hit courses. And if you have different pictures for your different subjects, especially for secondary, so let's say you teach, a couple different math classes or something, having a different icon for each one of those makes it real easy to identify. Elementary, probably not so much because it's not as important because you have just your one course. But when you're in secondary and start having multiple subjects, it's easier to quickly identify that. Right underneath that, you also have a bunch of course options. Okay, which if I look at that, we have several options here. I'm gonna just go with the first one here. We'll just kind of go down this list. View course as. This lets you view your course as a specific person enrolled in your class. So like you could view it as one of your students to see what your students are seeing. So if you just look down this list, you can see everyone's here. All you'd have to do is pick one of them. Okay, like if I pick Jack, I can view this course the same way Jack views this course. I get this little bar across the top here, says this is how your course looks to Jack Oakley, and you can click around and see things the way that person would see them. And then you can click this back to course, and now I'm back in my normal teacher view, my view. So that can be useful just to kind of preview things to see what your students would see. Underneath that is you can send a message. So Pete talked about that message center across the top toolbar there. If you click this is just another way to get into that quickly to send a message to folks in your course. You can choose all members, admins, so that would be anyone who's set as like a teacher role, or members, which is just students, basically members of that group, or all members is both groups, basically. So it's both groups, admins only, or members only. So basically everyone, teachers and co-teachers or students. And then from there, it's just your standard sort of email structure. You put a subject in there, type your message, hit send. That will show up in this message center within Schoology for anyone you send that message to. All right, that doesn't necessarily go straight to their email, it just goes to this message center in their Schoology account. It's just something to be aware of. Down here, you can just edit some info for your course. You don't really need to worry about that, especially for your Synergy generated courses, so your main courses. All that stuff will be plugged in there for you with course codes and all those things. You don't really have to worry about that. Really, the only other thing, two other things I want to point out in here are the moderate posts. So there's like a discussion board type feature within this, and if you use that, there's an option to turn on moderation, which means you have to approve messages before they are posted for students to view in your course. You have to approve them first, and this is where you would do that. So that's a useful place to know if you're going to use that function. Whoops. And then underneath that, under course options is recycle bin. So this is like if you delete an assignment or something, it usually shows up in this recycle bin. So if you accidentally delete something, you can kind of retrieve it through that, just like you would a recycling bin on your email or on your computer. It's the same idea, but it's for this specific course. Okay. On the left here, we have all our other options and places we're going to go. Most of the stuff we're going to look at today is going to be here in materials. Okay, this is where you're going to post all your assignments, all your resources, handouts, documents, all of that sort of stuff. That's all going to be done through materials, which we'll dive deep into here in just a few minutes. Then you have underneath that, you have updates, and it's called updates, but I think it's more of like an announcements. So you can post announcements out, push announcements out to your class. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. You just type in your little message. Welcome to our training. Type whatever message you want, hit post, and then that gets posted. And that depending on notification settings for the user, they could get notified that there's a new announcement, update, things like that. Across the bottom here, you'll see this little toolbar show up a lot in Schoology. It just lets you do some specific things. So here, this first one lets us attach a file. So if we wanted to attach a file to an announcement, so maybe there's some upcoming event we want to let our students know about, we could type a little description about it here and attach the flyer for that event or something here. The next one over is just it attaches a link to a website. Okay. Here under resources, you can attach something that you've saved to your resources already, which I think Pete touched on a little bit, but we can talk about that a little bit more in depth here in a minute. But you can save things to your resource folder and then pull it down into this. The other nice thing that this does is over here, once we know this resources, if we go down to apps, there's actually a Google Drive connection here. So you could pull stuff out of your Google Drive and attach it to a specific announcement if you needed to. Okay. Next to that, you have this little audio video recording, which is kind of cool. What this would allow you to do, if you hit that, it allows you to make a quick little audio recording of yourself or a short video recording of yourself and post it in that announcement. So if you wanted to put a little welcome message and attach a little video of yourself welcoming your class or whatever, you can do that very quickly and easily with that little button. Okay, you would just click it, choose which you want, whether you want just an audio clip or an audio and video clip, and then it activates your webcam on your computer and you get a little record button to start and stop. It's really that simple. Next to that, you can do a poll question, and then you could copy this if you wanted to copy your announcement. The poll question sort of looks like what we have down here where I said, what color should the bulletin board be? So the question I was thinking there was, maybe we're setting up our classroom and we want some input from our students and you're looking for color suggestions for what color background to put on a bulletin board or something. You could make a little poll question and students could reply to that poll. Okay, and you can see here when I did this earlier, I got 2 votes for green, and you can see the results. So so there's also that function here within that updates as well. Okay. Gradebook and gradebook setup, that's a whole nother class with all the details there, and there's a bunch of documentation on that. So for 101 right now, I'm going to kind of focus in more on the how to get stuff in and get stuff in your class going, and not the grade book setup, because there's another class I think on that, and we also have tons of documentation on that to help you step through that process. About the only other thing I'm going to touch on right now on this left side is the members section. Okay, if I click members, what we'll see here is everyone who's in my class. If you notice at the top here, Pete, myself, and Gavin all have this little icon on the side, which is means we're all admins. So we have administrative rights to this course, meaning we can add materials, add, delete, do all that. Basically, it's the teacher role of the class. Below that are a bunch of other names, people who's taken this training today or took it earlier this week. And you'll see that none of them have the little shield icon of any sort, which means that they are just students, basically, okay, or members in this particular class. Okay, the one thing I do want to show while I'm here is, let's say you have a co-teacher that you work with that you want to have access to your Schoology course. What you could do is you can add them. So I'm going to add a member here, and I'm going to actually add Maddie, the 4th member of our team. Oops. Choose, okay, so if I go over here, search for Maddie, and there we go. Click Maddie's name, I can hit add members, and now Maddie is listed. But she's just, when you add someone, they get added as just a member, the student. They're not in the teacher role yet. To do that, you have to assign them those rights. So next to each person's name is sort of this little gear. If I click that, I can click on make admin, and then it just asks me to confirm, And now Maddie is a admin or a co-teacher on this course. Okay. That's how you could add co-teachers. The other thing I wanted to show here is a lot of times we get questions about how do I add, like, say, a para to my course. If you just add a para to your course and they just are like enrolled as like a student, every night we have an update from Synergy into Schoology, which updates class lists and all that stuff. So if a new student gets added or a new student leaves, all of those courses, all those enrollments and courses automatically get adjusted. Well, if I were to add someone as a para into my course on that nightly upload, they're not enrolled in my course in Synergy, so they'd get wiped out. So they kind of we're getting wiped out every night. So we have to do something a little bit different in that case if you want like a para to be added. What you're going to do is you're just going to add them like we did. Go to add members, type in their name, find them, click add. Then you're going to actually give them admin rights like you would a teacher. So, and here you see all these blue shields, or all these shields have this little blue star, which means that's kind of an indicator that those people have full administrative rights. So they can edit everything, delete, add everything. But there's a way you can restrict what they can do as an admin. So let's say Maddie, who I just added a minute ago, is a para. I don't want Maddie wiped out every night on the upload for this class, but I don't necessarily want her to have full like teacher level editing rights. What I can do is, again, go to this gear, and there's this option here that says set section level role. And if I click that, you'll see I get like a combination of options that I can choose as to what this person can and can't do. Okay. Basically, it's broken down into two categories: grades and materials. What can they do with grades? What can they do with materials? So for grades, you have three options. They can either edit grades, see no grades at all, or just view grades but can't change anything. And then the second option is materials, which means they can either edit materials or just view materials. So let's say if we're pretending Maddie's a para here, she just needs to be able to view the grades and materials. I could choose this option, right? Lets her just view grades, view materials, can't edit anything, can only just see what's going on. Okay, I hit save. And once I do that, you'll notice the icon changes a little bit. You still have the shield indicating that they're a admin, but they don't have the little blue star, meaning they're restricted in what they can and can't do. Okay, so this is a great way to add a para to your class, is you can add them to the class, make them administrator, and then restrict their access with those section level options. And then so on the nightly upload, Maddie wouldn't get wiped out every night because she's not officially enrolled in the class because she's a para, not a student. So hope that makes sense. If you need to remove someone from the class, you can again click on the gear, and at the bottom is an option to unenroll. And if you just confirm that, it'll unenroll, and they've now been unenrolled from your class. Again, for enrolling and unenrolling, you probably won't need to worry about that in terms of students, because the student rosters are updated every night with that nightly upload from Synergy. Okay, so if you do get a new student, they would automatically be added to your class list. You wouldn't have to go in and add them manually. Okay, hope that makes sense. How are we doing on time here? Oh, we're doing well. Okay, with that, I'm going to go back to materials now, and let's look at how we're actually going to put stuff in here. Okay, because this is where you're going to put all your, this is basically the material sections where you're going to put everything: your worksheets, your assignments, your resources, all of that sort of stuff, links to news articles you want them to read, whatever it happens to be. Okay, so once you're in this material section, at the top here, you have this little button that says add materials. And this is where you can go to add all sorts of different things. Okay, all sorts of different assignments. Because this is a 101, we're not necessarily going to dive into all of these options. We're just going to kind of dive into the most popular ones, or the ones that are most useful to start off with. The first is the one that's right on top, which is add a folder. So you can organize all the stuff that goes in this materials section within folders, just like you would organize documents in your documents folder on your computer, right? You could have different folders with subfolders, create all that sort of structure. How I've seen folders used, I've seen them used multiple ways depending upon the teachers. I've seen some teachers that will organize folders by week. So like week 1, and they create a folder for week 1, put all the materials that they need for week 1 in that folder, and then week 2 and week 3. So I've seen them organized that way. I've seen them organized by unit. So you have unit 1, and then all this is a folder for unit 1, has all the stuff within that. And maybe there's subfolders within unit 1 for homework and classwork and projects or whatever, right? But it's organized by unit instead of week. I've also seen some elementary teachers, well, they'll create folders for subjects. So they'll have a folder for all their math, for reading, for, writing, whatever, all those different sorts of things, science. So how you structure it is going to be totally up to you to decide what works best for you and how you teach and what works best for your class. But to create a folder, it's pretty straightforward. You just click add folder and you're going to give it a title. So if you look here, I had created a unit 1 folder earlier this week. So I'll say, let's create unit 2. You can choose which color. If you're a color code person, you can give it a description. So, this is just materials for unit 2. Or you could be more elaborate, whatever you want to do. And then we have some options down here at the bottom I want to talk about. If we just leave things the way it is, the way they are right now, and I just hit create, it would create that folder and it would be visible to all my students right away. Okay. But maybe you're planning ahead a little bit and you're working on, next week's stuff or unit 2 stuff when you're still working on when you're still in unit 1, and you're planning ahead a little bit. So you don't necessarily want this folder to be published out to your students, to be visible to your students right away. Under availability here, you can change from published to unpublished. And if I did that, as a teacher, I can still see the unit, access it, add things, but it's not visible to my students yet. It wouldn't be visible until I hit that publish button. So that allows you to sort of build things ahead of time if you would like to. Okay. And then when you're ready for them, you just go back into this window and just change that from unpublished to published. Okay. The other option here, if you notice, is we have 2 other options down here. The next being publish on start date. So I can make a folder and have it not have it all created, not visible to students until a certain date. So if I choose that, I would then I have to go up here and use this date line. And this is where I could put in a specific date. So maybe I want this folder to show up on August 31st. I would put the date in here. The second one, I could put in a specific time if I wanted to. You don't necessarily have to put in a specific time. It would just become published at like 12 a.m. or whatever, as soon as it turns to the 31st. So that's an option. The other option you have here is publish during a date range. So it's basically just taking this publish on a start date, same idea, but now putting an end to it. So you can make a folder visible for only a certain amount of time. So maybe I want a folder of materials only available to students for a week. I could choose publish time during date range, choose the date that it becomes available, and then I can choose the date it goes away. Okay. And then that folder would be visible to students starting the 31st. And as soon as we hit September 7th, it would go away. It wouldn't be visible to students. You would still see it and have access to it. It's just not visible to students. I'm just going to go to normal publish. So just this folder becomes live right away. And then you just hit create. And down here, again, you'll see there's my unit 2 folder I just created. Okay. If I click into that unit or that folder for unit 2, it's empty. And you can add more folders if you need to organize stuff further and start adding other materials and things. So that's sort of folders, which will be your structure. All right. Now I'm going to hit that add materials button again, and I'm going to take a look at other things that we can add. I'm going to start with, let's start with something simple. Let's go down and look at add file, link, or external tool. Okay. So if I click that, I get this option. And this is pretty straightforward. This is just going to add either a file or a link into this folder. Where I've seen this used a lot is if you wanted to put something like a course syllabus in here, or I've seen like lab safety documents from teachers, something like that. It's just adding a document into this folder. If you click on it, you can go attach file. Attach file, maybe. It's giving me the spinny. I hope my computer is not locking up on me right now. There we go. Okay. So you could find a specific document if you wanted. Let's just do this one. Okay. One calendar open. All right. And then I can just hit add. Boom. Now you click on this, it opens up that document. Pretty straightforward. That same option also allows you to add a link. So if I click link instead of file, okay, here I can add the URL. So I can just go www.nsd.org, and NSD website would be our title. And you hit add. It just creates a little link so that if I click on it, will automatically open a window and take me to the district website. For some reason, things are moving a little slow today in Schoology. Okay. So when you use this function, it just literally adds a link to either the website or the document. There's not really anything else around it. It's just boom, there's your link, there's your resource. If you wanted to add a little more context around, this calendar, let's say, what you might want to do is actually add a page. Okay, because if we add a page, what it does is it allows us to put some text and other things around there. Okay, so inside here, I could add some text about, why do I want you to look at the calendar? School calendar for the year, or planning, or whatever you want it to be. You can add some text, all that stuff. Then I could use this link button down here in this page to add add a link to the district website calendar on the website, or I could attach the document here to attach the calendar, right? So, and it puts it down here at the bottom. So it's just a page is sort of like, I kind of almost think of it as like a blank slate, kind of something like a blank web page, right? Where you can build some context around what's on that page. And then you could just hit create. And it creates a page. So when you click on the page, it opens it up kind of here. And you'll see there's any text you put in, there's the link to the calendar. So it allows you to put a little more context around either a link or a document or something along those lines, instead of just popping up there randomly. Okay. Back into my Unit 2 folder. And the next thing I want to go through is probably the one that's most of you are wondering about, which is assignments. How do you add an assignment to this system or to your course? So you're going to click add assignment, and it's going to open up a little window here. And what we're going to do here is we're going to look at, or just kind of go through what we see here. First is just going to be the name of the assignment. Okay. So I'll just be boring and call this homework number 2. Excuse me. Then you can give your description of what it is. Complete the attached worksheet or whatever, right? Whatever directions or things you need. You have your full sort of, word processor options up here with bold, underline, italics, lists, bulleted lists, fonts, all that fun stuff you can do up here. If you notice here again, you have those same sort of options that we had before, where it could be a file. You could attach a file, you could attach a link. You can pull something down from your resources or pull something from a Google Doc. Here you could also do a little video recording of yourself, just explaining the assignment if you want. And external tools we're not going to jump into right now. We're 101, we're going to try and keep things basic here. Under format options here, you can do a Google Drive assignment here, which would allow you to link stuff from your drive as well. There's actually a slightly better way to do that, which we'll touch on briefly today, but if you watch or attend a 201 training, a Schoology 201 training, we go more in depth with that. You can also, there's this annotate assignments. We're not going to get into that today. Again, that's sort of a part of the 201 class, but it allows you to like upload things like a picture or a PDF, and then students can annotate over them. Very cool new feature that just sort of came out over the summer. So I would suggest, either if you can attend the training tomorrow afternoon, I'd watch one of the recordings once they're posted, because that's a really cool new feature. Down here, you set your due date. Okay, and you can set your points. Choose your grading category you want it to go in. Teachers usually have, lots of teachers have grading categories like homework, classwork, labs, tests, quizzes, however you break it down. This will be the current, once your schedules are released and all these courses are created, this should be the correct grading period by default, so you shouldn't have to mess with that. Factors you won't have to really change. It just is a multiplication factor of how many points it's worth. This will be whether that grade gets synced over to Synergy or not when you do a sync. Okay. And then you can choose your scale or rubric. I think, most teachers either use numeric or this NSD traditional grading scale. I'm just going to leave it as numeric. And then at the bottom here are some options I just want to run through real quick. Okay. So here, I'm going to start with these four in the middle, actually. The first is the green, which just means that when that green circle is selected, it's going to be published to students automatically. Okay, so as soon as I hit create, this assignment would be visible to students. If you're working ahead and you don't want it published yet, you can check that so the circle becomes white and then it's unpublished. Okay. This is for grade statistics. You can turn that on and off and kind of get some stats on the scores for this assignment. Comments, you can enable comments or disable comments, which allows students to comment back to you about the assignment. Copy to courses. So if you're teaching multiple courses, but this is an assignment that multiple courses are doing, you can click that and assign and make this assignment in other courses without having to recreate it. And then the submissions enabled, that means students are allowed to submit work. If you disable that, they cannot submit work. Okay. The only other one I want to go to is this first one, which is individually assigned. It's this little triangle with dots. If you click that, you can assign this to specific students, assignments to specific students if you would like. Okay. So you just click that, this new line pops up, and you would just type in their names or email addresses. Okay. It should be connected. Oh, maybe you do need the actual. Oh, no, that was starting to load. It was just slow, I think. No, stop. All right, so you could type in the email address there or the person, and then you just hit create. I'm actually not going to assign this to just Pete. I'll assign it to everyone and hit create. And there you go, homework number 2. Okay. So that's how you can add an assignment. Pretty straightforward. hopefully. What I want to show you is once some work gets submitted, what does that look like for you as a teacher? Okay, so I'm actually going to go back to a level to just the general here and go into unit 1 because I created a homework there for the previous section. And if you click on a homework, what you'll see is, oh, of course, no one submitted this. Is this homework assignment here. And over here, you'll see submissions. Right now, no one's actually submitted anything for this. But that's okay. You would see that here, but if I go under received here, no, I don't have anything to grade. Shoot. Let's see. Do I have any other assignments here? All right, so yeah. Well, bummer. I was trying to see if, what about this? Does this have anything? That's not really assignment though.
What about in 201?
Probably. Let me jump over to see if I'm gonna jump to a different class here real quick just to see if we have. Gotta have an assignment with something in it somewhere. Wow, was that a sentence I actually just said?
It made sense.
Okay, I'm glad it made sense to someone because I don't know if it made sense in my own brain. Okay, here we go. Here's an assignment. Okay. And if I go under, I can go here, needs grading. And if I click that, you'll see that the names pop up here. And then if I click on one of them, it will pop up that student's work. Okay. So you can see they actually put some stuff in here and did some drawings. This is actually an example of that annotate over PDF thing I was talking about, which we dive into a little more in 201. This was a math PDF that they were able to write over the top of. But you can see the work of the student submitted. Over here, I can add a comment to that work if I want. Okay. You grade it up here, give it a grade, and you can add a little comment of specifically to the grade that shows to only that student. This is more the comment up here with the grade is probably more, in my mind, focused about the grade. This one over here would probably be more focused about the work in the page. The comment over here on the right, you can also attach a file or, again, make a little audio or video recording talking about, you know, what the student needs to work on or what they did really well or whatever you want. Then you can post that. And then you can enter, like I said, enter the grade here. Okay. And then you hit submit. Then from this drop down, you can actually see all the other students that have submitted. So you can just go to the next one and just continue to grade all of them. Okay. So that's the basics there. I'm jump back to 101 where we were. Okay. So that's the assignments piece. Okay. It's probably one of the most used features, right? This allows you to do all that digital, you know, submission of work and things like that. You can also, there's assessment tool built into it. That's a whole class in and of itself. Again, that's another tool we jump into in the 201 class. How to build assessments using this assessment tool. A lot of folks who use things like Google Forms and stuff for assessments. This does that, but it has a bunch of question types that like you aren't available in a lot of the other formats and things like Google Forms and stuff. So 201, again, a plug for that. If you have time to watch a recording or attend one, we'll cover that in a lot more in depth. And also this Google Assignments tab here as well. It's probably the best way to attach a Google document or making a Google assignment sort of thing. We talked about this, links, discussions, we're not going to jump into. You can do like discussions and have and have to moderate them and all that sort of fun stuff. Oh, I remember what I wanted to show you. If we made an assignment, so like this assignment for homework 2, and this is probably something to think about a little later down the road, not necessarily right away, especially if you're just starting in Schoology and this is like your first year teaching or something. But if this is an assignment that you liked and you want to save it and use it for future use, if you click on this gear, you can save it to your resources. Okay. And you can organize your resources into folders and all that sort of stuff, but you hit save. And basically this saves a copy into your resources. So what you can then do is you get this resource tab up here on the top. If I click that, I can see all these different things I have saved. So here's that homework assignment I just saved. I can now take and add that to another course, okay? Or copy it to another course or whatever. So, starting off fresh, this might not be something you use right away, but as you go through, if there's assignments that you really like or you want to use again, you can add them to your resources. You can also I've also known teachers that like at the end of the year basically uploaded everything to the resources so they could use it again for the following year. It's just a way to sort of save a bunch of save those things and easily access them to be able to pull them down into other courses and stuff. Okay. So yeah, so there's that. Let me check my notes. See what else I need to cover here real quick. Let's see. Oh, checking my notes. Did that. Yep. All right, we did all that stuff. Pete, I think I kind of got through everything a little bit early today.
Well, very good.
Unless you can think of something I missed.
No, I think that covers the intro. If anyone is interested, I know we've mentioned that 201 class a certain amount. Let me just pull up the time for that.